missing several folks. Josh had a family emergency last minute and could not be here. Jeff and Jean are both out of town, and our vacancy, Rich Wise, the other new county appointee, is on vacation or out of town and is not going to be sworn in. So we're short of that. So we're going to slip the agenda and get our newest member of the WSACC board, Commissioner Ian Patrick, sworn in. Welcome, Ian. We're glad you're a part of this board. I'm looking forward to great things from you, and working with this board. It's been a fantastic experience, I think, for most of us. Hopefully you'll find it to be the same. So we'll get you sworn in, and then we can actually do some business.
All right. If you'll please stand, place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, state your name,
I, Ian Patrick,
do solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm,
that I will support and maintain
support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as director
as my office as director
of the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County.
the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Pin that down there. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to our unfinished business, and that is, I need a motion to approve the minutes from January 15th, 2026 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Adopt the agenda or not?
Yeah, let's be formal and adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, we have some special recognitions. We have a guest with us tonight who is no stranger to any of us, but we'll start with just a quick congratulations and recognitions of two board members that we've really already done this a couple of times. They were replaced and then reappointed, and then we've had a couple of times of good wishes with them here. And they're not with us tonight, but Jonathan Marshall, 13 years on this board, appointed in 2012, served through 2025. I was reappointed for about 7 months in mid 2025 until January of this year. Jonathan, as most of you know, his fingerprints are on just about everything in Cabarrus County that's happened in the past 30 years. Deep encyclopedic knowledge of this county and its growth and everything else has been a huge resource to this board. So we certainly thank him for his service. And Bob Ritchie, great private sector viewpoint, served this county for a number of years on the Soil and Water Conservation Board, and just always had thoughtful questions, and I think very engaging with guests and with consultants and staff, and is always very attentive to the work of this board. So he will be missed as well, and we appreciate him for his service. 14 years. He was appointed the year before Jonathan, and departed at the same time. So 27 years of service between the two of them. And then we'll move to our third member who, as most of you know, needs no introduction. Daryl Hennett. Daryl, if you just sort of stand or come up here at the edge of the board and let me just make a couple of remarks and
We'll see.
hey.
Sit right here in Concord, see.
We'll keep you straight, Mayor.
Daryl Hennett, he started the service a year after I did, in 2002, June of 2002, and served for a little more than 23 years on this board. He, as most of you know, and let me read some of his background because I think it is an eye-opener. He always brought a technical expertise to this board that is very difficult to find in an elected official. Or staff for that matter, but definitely for an elected official. And consultants knew it. When consultants stood at that podium, they got questions from this board, and a lot of them were generated from Daryl Hennett because of his background. He, over his career, was served in several executive positions with Rollins Environmental Services, Southeastern Labs, Radiator Specialty. He was executive director for the North Carolina Hazardous Waste Commission in Raleigh, which almost got him to the grave, I think, a few times. But bottom line is, and then his current job, which he's been doing for several years on a part-time basis for Handy Sanitary District, his background in chemical engineering and chemistry, and his background in environmental and his background in utilities has really served this board well, I think, over the years. Again, 24 years of service, and including 25 years or so of service to the city of Kannapolis as well, sort of paralleling the same time. So he's going to be missed and has been missed with this board. And I'm going to miss him personally because we've worked together for nearly 3 decades. So, but we do have a little plaque here. I'd like to read it and get a photo up. And
Hope I get a chance to say something after all that.
as soon as you get this, you can. Let's get a quick picture. Let me read it. It says, recognition of service presented to Daryl Hennett, Board of Directors, 2002 to 2026, and appreciative of your successful terms of office and your leadership and commitment to the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County.
Thank you. Thank you very
The
much.
floor is yours.
Let me tell you that, heard Mike mention that I worked with the Hazardous Waste Commission for 3.5 years. Actually, I worked for Jim Martin for 3.5 years. I will tell you that I have 2 people in my life that I thought was the smartest people I would ever run up to. Jim Martin is one of those. He was literally brilliant. He was capable of understanding things beyond what you can imagine. And so he put together this board, of which I was happy to serve on as the executive director, just like Chad is serving here. And as a result of that, we made lots of things happen. William, we went to court 27 times. I testified 27 times as a result of that. And we won every case. Some of those cases went to the Supreme Court, won them all the way through the circuit court as well as the Supreme Court. And I will tell you, the reason I'm saying all this to you all is we had 9 people on that board who were world experts. We had people who were experts in cancer, experts in engineering, experts in emissions, all kinds of things that it was like every single day that you walked in and there was a technical question, all you had to do is pick up the phone and call that person and they could let you know what it was to do that. As a result of that, it was amazing to work in that environment when every day there was a question. Every day we got sued 27 times. That's the reason we were in court 27 times. Nobody wanted it in their backyard. And as a result, it was, what can you do with it as a result of that? I will also say to you that this board has been, as far as I'm concerned, the closest rival to that board. You all have been experts along the way. You all, when we ask what kind of engineering do we need, what kind of engineering have we needed in the past before Thomas became the engineer, or you all, when we move things forward, the secret of this board is you have to wear 2 hats, and then you have to take off your local hat and put on the WSACC hat. And that is really difficult because each of us come from an environment. We represent the community we live in as a result of that. I think that the technical information that we have before this board and the way this board has handled it, whether it was legal cases that we were doing discovery or mediation or whatever it happened to be, there was a place for somebody to step forward and get it done. So I'm really here to applaud you all because this board has been a great board and it continues to have the opportunity to be a great board. There is going to be some challenges. There already are. I mean, just the idea that the state normally would say you can only work on one permit at a time, that we have convinced them that we can work on 2 permits at the same time. That is because they trust this board and they trust these people who are putting the data together for them, and that we know that things will get done the right way. So I'm here tonight, not just to say thank you for this, but to say this board has its hands full. I said to my replacement, Gene, this will be the toughest job you've ever done. You've never been on a board that requires this kind of commitment that this board requires. So I'll say that to you too. This board requires even more commitment than the one you're already on. Because there is so much technical information that you will be swallowing like drinking from a fire hose. If you think you're already drinking from a fire hose, you've seen nothing yet, as this one is going to be. So I'm saying to you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me introduce my wife, Mary, and my daughter, Darla. And they wanted to come here tonight because they wanted to see where I was disappearing to all of you. Some years I was disappearing. So thank you very much for letting me be a part of this group with you. It has been one of the joys of my life to sit in that chair. Thank you.
I feel like you should.
I didn't sit in it. Want to say anything else or?
Yeah, I wanted to say real quick, I've been here at WSACC. This will be, I'm in my 18th year here at WSACC. So, Daryl's been here my whole career. I think sitting in the same seat my whole career. I've always valued, we become the leaders that we are around. We become a lot like them. We learn from them. And from the 3 that are stepping off our board, I've learned a lot. Daryl always learned there's a way and there's a need to ask the tough questions and not just to accept the first answer you get, to push and dig. There's a right way to do that. There's a time that needs to be done. And I always respected that about you, that we always, if Daryl started asking questions and then he quit asking questions, well, then you did your job. You got him satisfied. And that was always very valuable for us as staff. Bob, I was always been super impressed. Bob was one that I never felt like came to a meeting unprepared. I felt like Bob had reviewed, thought about. He always had, I'll say a random, that sounds bad, but he always had a question that kind of like, all right, well, I know you read the information, and he always was very prepared and always brought a very common sense and gentle way of approaching things and asking questions and clarification. And then for Jonathan, I'll just say, he was one I interacted with my entire career here on the board for most of that. But Jonathan had the knack of asking the question of, man, I'm glad he was here since somebody asked that question. I didn't even think about that. And he always had the knack of asking that question of, I'm glad he asked that because we hadn't really thought about that. And so that kind of empowers me to, always think of just ask your question. You never know. Like you get it out there because there's probably somebody else thinking the same thing or that hasn't thought about it that way. And so just wanted to say that about each of those, of how they've each impacted me and my career, and how grateful I am for each of them and their service and the professionals that they are. So thank you, Derek.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
I went to high school with Daryl's daughter, even though I know it's hard to believe he's old enough to have 20-year-olds. So I've known him longer than anybody, but it's a good family right there. I mean, with all the stuff is true, but those are just good individuals that love our community. And I never thought that our daddies would be serving together, because my dad served for 20 years with Daryl in Kannapolis, and we appreciate it. Yeah, just so much. It's our community that now my grandkids are valued from, and they're benefiting from. So grateful.
Is that your invitation that she can serve?
She can.
That's the torch.
She wasn't quite as crazy as I am, evidently. Usually when you watch your daddy, you're like, nah, I ain't taking part of that.
Thank you, Daryl, for your service.
say that everything that Mike said about how well we've worked together is a mutual agreement that we have been teammates for 20+ years, and he has been outstanding, leading this organization as the chair as well as the other things he's done. So thank you, Mike.
Okay. All right, Chad, reports.
Thomas, I think Thomas is gonna give us a CIP update on some of the things that we've got going on and give some updates of what's going on.
Absolutely. We'll let Thomas. There we go. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as we do many months, we have a CIP update this evening for our capital projects that are in progress and coming up. Thank you. Oh,
Sorry.
that's all right. The clicker woke up back here. So a few things we'll cover, wastewater treatment plant construction at Rocky River Plant for this one, collection system construction along Lower Cottle Creek, 2 studies that are still in progress, and some requests for qualification and advertisements for bid that are currently active. So first, for the wastewater treatment plant construction. So at the Rocky River plant, in the last month, we were able to successfully complete startup for main pump station pump 2. Chris and his team were heavily involved in that, as were all the Crowder folks. So we're happy to have that going now with that new pump. We continued concrete rehab, concrete pours, and diffuser installation at aeration basin 4. So those top 2 pictures there, one is kind of the surface level. On the right is the surface level of that aeration basin and some of the anoxic zones at the front end of it. And then to the left there at the top, those are the diffusers down at the bottom of the basin. So that's from the top looking in at those. So those are in progress at this point. They started installation of air piping and supports between aeration basin 5 and aeration basin 4. There's some real estate in the middle of those, so they are bridging that and providing us a way to still get to the equipment in the middle there. And they also continued secondary clarifier rehabilitation. Down on these bottom pictures here on the left-hand side, you've got a secondary clarifier with the surface prep completed before the coating goes on. And then on the right-hand side, you can see kind of the cream-colored coating on the walls and in the troughs there. That's an epoxy coating that will protect that concrete into the future for us. So in the next month, we're going to continue secondary clarifier rehab. One of those 8 secondary clarifiers is about done at this point. We'll be putting it back online, and then we'll continue to the next one from there. They will also continue concrete rehab, diffuser installation, and air piping and supports at aeration basin 4. Again, that's up on the top here in the pictures. They will continue some electrical and mechanical work at the dissolved air flotation thickener building, or DAFT building. And they are going to continue concrete and mechanical work at the SCUM pump station. So moving on to collection system construction projects. In this case, we've got Lower Cottle Creek parallel interceptor. With the snow and ice over the last month, work has been, they've had some tough conditions out there. You know, even after the snow and ice go away, we're left with all the mud, as we have been everywhere. And despite that, I guess the contractor has to date installed approximately 14,500 feet of the 48-inch pipeline and about 2,200 feet of the 36-inch pipeline. They've also begun the jack and bore installation for pipe. They're running pipe beneath Roberta Road along Cottle Creek. And so they've begun that effort. Their second and third crews are continuing to work with the pipe installation, as are the associated drilling and blasting crews going with them as well. And they are continuing with a subcontractor, the rehabilitation, of existing manholes. The next steps, they're going to continue drilling and blasting. They're going to continue installing that 48-inch and 36-inch pipe. They're going to begin construction of diversion structures. This is a parallel line, so those diversion structures allow the flow to be shared between the existing line that's been there for quite a while and the new line that's being constructed now. And they will continue coating manholes as well. And so a couple of studies here. And so master plan and MPDES permitting, we did submit the engineering alternatives analysis to DEQ. And so that, as a reminder, is what will be our supporting document for our permit limits request for 36 MGD and 45 MGD at Rocky River. We submitted that back in December. We are continuing to coordinate with DEQ through their completion of that EAA review. Chris and I talked with them a couple of weeks ago, along with some others from WSACC, and they indicated that that review is currently in progress, as we're here this evening, and they hope to have that back to us fairly soon. And so following that approval of the EAA, we will submit our permit application for the limits pages at 36 MGD and 45 MGD. And then following that submission of that permit application to DEQ, we will request those further speculative limits for up to 54 MGD. Our wastewater treatment facilities plan and preliminary engineering report. For Muddy Creek, we have received all of the technical memos for that effort, that part of the effort, so that's a good thing. We are continuing to move forward separately with the expansion design build effort. We'll talk about that shortly. At Rocky River, we have received some updated budgetary cost estimate information from Brown and Caldwell for those tiers for Rocky River expansion at 36, 45, and 54 MGD. So our next steps are to complete review for that draft PER, the expansion to 54 MGD PER. We have also requested a formal permit limits page at Muddy Creek for 0.66 MGD. That is our current expansion. We're heading there with our design build effort that's in progress now with the evaluation of those proposals. And we are going to incorporate the updated budgetary cost information into the updated proposed CIP moving forward. And so now to a few active requests for qualification and advertisements for bid. So first off, with the Muddy Creek expansion, this will take Muddy Creek from 300,000 gallons per day to 660,000 gallons per day as a progressive design build project. So we have received, I guess the gray here are kind of steps along this design build procurement process. And so the gray items are items that we've completed already. So we've issued the RFQ, the request for qualifications. We've received the statements of qualifications. We've reviewed those. We did receive 3 statements of qualification. And so we are moving forward with interviews of all 3 of those teams. And so those interviews will be next Tuesday that we're doing that. So that's coming up quickly. And our goal is to notify the preferred team on March 3rd, begin working with them on an initial contract negotiation and to bring that to this board for your consideration. Rocky River Interceptor Rehab. So this is rehab of an existing interceptor roughly between Highway 29 along the Rocky River, so near the Speedway area, and the county line up past 73 and Poplar Tent Road, kind of up that way. And so we did complete the initial advertisement for bids in January to mid-February. The snow and ice got us here as well a little bit because contractors were not able to get out in the time frame that they wanted to take a look at this job. We are working with them to identify a reasonable time frame to re-advertise for bids. This is an ARPA funded project, so we will continue to coordinate with DWI as we have been for the reviews and approvals. Everything has gone well with that so far. And we will present bid recommendations once we receive those bids to this board for your consideration. And finally, the Mount Pleasant force main upsizing. And so this is replacement of an existing 8-inch force main with a 16-inch force main from Mount Pleasant Pump Station 1 to Mount Pleasant Pump Station 2 to the intersection of Cold Springs Road and Highway 49. We are also approaching this project as a progressive design build effort. And we have just issued the RFQ, assembled the RFQ and issued it for that project. We've got a lot of interest from contractor and engineer teams in that project, so we're hopeful to see a robust collection of proposals for that too. But you can see the projected time frame moving out from that. Our SOQs will be due towards the end of March, and then we'll do interviews with those shortlisted teams after we evaluate and select shortlisted teams. We'll do those interviews towards the end of April. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions I have.
Any questions? Thomas?
So I think I was on the second slide, you had the 45 and 54. Do we have a calendar on when that was gonna happen? If you go back to the second one,
Sure.
we'd already submitted for 36.
So we have submitted the EAA, this one? Is
Yeah.
that- Okay. We have submitted the EAA in support of 36 and 45 MGD.
Okay.
And so that's a combined effort. That's one document that's submitted in support of both of those.
So the second one says following the approval. So we've already submitted the permit application, or are we waiting for
No, sir.
the engineering alternative analysis report before we submit that?
We are waiting on DEQ to approve the engineering alternatives analysis report before we can submit the permit application.
So
for those
that
plans.
calendar is what I was looking for. Is that like a 6-month process, a shorter period?
Sure, we talked with them, February 9th, Chris? With DEQ, they've of course had this since December. They indicated that this is on their review schedule right now. And so they were hoping to review within a number of weeks from that date. And so I'm hoping any day now we will hear some comments from DEQ on that. Depending on the depth of their comments and what they have, that we need to resolve there. We'll take some time to do that, submit any updates to them. And then the permit application, we are looking to submit that. We're able to submit that after the EAA is approved.
Directly after,
Right.
We think by summer we can submit that for sure, or is
We are hopeful to do that. We talked with DEQ in the context of, we also have our permit renewal coming up. And you submit a lot of the same information for both packages, whether you're expanding or renewing. And so we talked with DEQ on February 9th, and that was part of our question to her was, hey, we don't want to prepare 2 applications because it's a ton of work. You don't want to review 2 applications. How can we do this in a way that is streamlined? And so she thought that our, April?
I think May.
Okay, early May, permit renewal deadline, that we would have the EAA in time to submit with that permit renewal and to submit for the renewal and the expansion tiers all at one time.
Gotcha. And is the 36 was a much lower improvement to bump that from 34 to 36. Is that
Originally it was, now it's not because of nutrient limits.
okay? I might have.
So the nutrient limits that they put on that changed that dramatically.
So now they're coupled.
Yes.
Question, Thomas, cost estimate for expansion. I noticed that little bullet in there.
Sure.
Any timeline, like, is that what we're talking about? Is that a more appropriate next piece of it, or like y'all just got that back and then we might have a discussion around?
Yeah, so we did get that back. The numbers have changed significantly to the good. Now, not for 34. 34 went up, or 36 went up dramatically because of nutrients, but that cost came off of 45. So that will all be part of the CIP update that we do. But basically, Thomas, I think we went from like 40 million. Do you have those numbers?
That was my first bullet.
Sure. So we were carrying roughly a $70 million allowance one way or the other, whether it was 45 or 36 for the nutrient limits. And that was just Brown and Cobble's rough guess to begin with. And so the nutrient limits piece of that, again, got added to the 36 MGD. So the 36 MGD I'm reading here is about 126 million. Including the nutrient, that's the current estimate, including the nutrient limits. Of that, the nutrient limits are almost $89 million. And so we're effectively needing to build nutrient management facilities for an entire 36 MGD plant. And so that drives the largest piece of that, like Chad was saying. For 40 to go on to 45 from there is another, their current estimate is basically $360 million beyond that. And so those two numbers added together are actually a good bit less than what we were carrying in our CIP for those together, but just the cost shifted between the two with the nutrient limits.
And one thing to keep in mind for the 36 expansion, Charlotte Water, whether they would participate capacity wise or not, will have to participate in the cost of that project. Because their share of the plant, their 8 million gallons of 36 MGD at that point, the nutrient addition is per the contract, any new requirements put on by the state or the EPA that requires construction cost, they have to pay their portion of that. So even if they didn't participate in, they would be paying roughly 23% of that $89 million. If they contribute and want some capacity out of that 2 million, then their contribution will be up more than that. But I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that they will have a capital contribution that they have to make towards those nutrient limits.
Have they acknowledged that, or is that our position?
I mean, the contract's very clear. The contract's extremely clear on that portion. There are a few things that are very, very clear in that contract, but that's one of them that's pretty clear.
But this is triggered by our action, right? It's not random new requirements, right? If we didn't ask for an expansion, are they not gonna say?
Correct.
"Well, we didn't ask for the expansion, that's triggered it." I'm just raising the issue. It may not be as black. and
Right, but
white.
they have indicated they're gonna want more capacity in the future, so it's gonna expand at some point. So I don't think they will try to fight that.
So my top line takeaway on this is obviously the 36 isn't low hanging fruit anymore.
Right.
45 is a number we've all been zeroing in on. We've had other discussions of the 54. We're looking at about 466 million minus Charlotte's 20 million that I did a quick back of the napkin on there, which is substantially less than we had talked about before. This up to 36, we had kind of all agreed we would use the current allocation formulas because it's kind of already baked in there. I'm assuming we're reconsidering that because it's going to take much longer to get to that 36. Now, I mean, I'm assuming you'd blow by it and just do the 45. Or maybe not.
Yeah, no, I don't know that would be, I mean, it's obviously something that needs to be discussed and decided by the board. I don't think there's a logical step that you make because yes, you have to put in a lot of concrete, it's a good bit of concrete and steel for filters and for chemical and some of the things for the nutrient removal, but you're not building new pump stations, you're not building new basins, you're not building new headworks, you're not in nearly as big of a construction project going from 34 to 36 that you are going from 36 to 45. So I think there still is a logical break there. There's just not the per gallon break that we had hoped that we were going to have by being able to do that for more in the $40 million range.
Yeah. Well, now I'm just looking at the 126 million for 2 MGD.
Correct.
Versus, the remainder of that 360 million for another 9.
Correct. You're just looking at a dramatically more cheaper per gallon, but a lot more fixed cost on a monthly basis. So, that'll just all have to be weighed out. What makes sense.
And we kind of all shot for that. Hey, let's get Bill out to 36 and then we can look at a different formula for, whatever we have, which I'm fine with. I'm just seeing if that is still timing standpoint, how we're going to proceed.
Yeah, I think the discussion is going to be framed for each jurisdiction probably in almost, I'm not saying you have to be all in for some part of the 46, but if you're going to invest that much per gallon in the 2 million gallons, you got to be thinking, I'm all in for more. It's not very cost effective to do that if that's all you're going to want.
Yeah.
So that seems to be how we're all going to have to frame this discussion ultimately.
And I think we do have to be practical about the point that whether nutrients are coming, whether we expand or not, nutrients are coming at some point. Whether that's 6 years, 8 years, 14 years, I don't know. But at some point they will come to the Rocky River Basin. The driver right now is they're saying any new permits that expand are getting those. They've said eventually we're gonna go to the, we're gonna go on down the line and get permits that even aren't expanding. We just don't know a time frame on that. And so,
What's our, I guess now, decision and timing point for the 36? We'd already made a board approval to go to 36, assuming that it wasn't a nutrient. The permit would get approved without nutrient load modifications to the permit. So we need, what is the process now?
we don't have anything approved by the board to go to 36 yet.
We haven't approved that.
No, we haven't done anything. We'll have an updated CIP. As with the next step really is for the jurisdictions to come back and say, this is what we think we need and when we need it. And so we can start really, getting a feel of what's the real need into the future, and how quickly. And until we have that data, it's a,
Yeah, we discussed
don't-
last month we need to put a time frame on that. So we
It
had.
wasn't last month, but last July, we went through the CIP because I complained that we were doing the CIP after the budget.
right.
And we talked about going 34 to 36 and it being low hanging fruit. And we took a motion and a vote on that to go ahead and authorize you guys to do that because of the cost associated with the two was so much lower. Maybe that's changed.
Yeah, we approved the CIP, but we didn't authorize the project.
Well, yeah, until we bid it, you're not gonna authorize it, but
Right.
we authorized the project through a CIP. In
But then the
August.
nutrient change happened.
Yes.
So from a
Which is-
perspective of that, we didn't, but we did discuss at the last board meeting that we needed to set a time limit. I think we talked May was kind of when each jurisdiction needed to have kind of a number on the table, because without that, we can't really have any more discussions. It's difficult
It is.
to be able to move
Yes.
forward. And having this updated pricing is kind of what we were waiting on too.
So May, is this updated pricing, things we can go work out internally? Like
Yeah.
we've had our, when I say we, different jurisdictions been working out their capacity desires. And then kind of going through this back and forth. We've got our rate model that we're working through in our budget now. I've been working off some of the old numbers, kind of padding them. So they're much higher than these numbers, which is good.
Right.
But at some point, and you mentioned this last fall, it's like we've got to make some decisions on 36, 45, 54, who needs what, where, when, what that model is. The longer we wait on it, the more expensive it gets, and the more pressure we get to make a decision.
So as part of the budget presented to the board next month, for review, and then ultimately approval the following month will be the updated CIP with that in there. We obviously can send these updated numbers to the board now, on what these updated 36 and 45 numbers are now, but that will be part of the included in the CIP to be updated and considered with the budget.
The 36 and 45.
I would love, if you don't mind sharing it, just
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
definitely be here, and we can go ahead and run it through our rate
Yeah,
model
no, we'll be
too.
happy to.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll be happy to.
Be great.
Be happy to.
Okay. Thomas, anything else on CIP or any questions?
That was it for the presentation. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to handle any of those.
Okay, all right, we'll move on. Sort of rolled into this next topic.
I jumped
Anything else?
ahead, sorry.
It's not a problem.
I pulled right in.
That's not a problem. I did not have much plans for discussion in this work session area tonight, other than to kind of rehash and drive home the goal of sometime around that May timeframe, that we can start coming together, understanding that the numbers that we're going to get from the jurisdictions are going to be, this is what we think. We feel pretty good about this. We're not bringing you something from our council or board saying that this is what we are committing to, but that can give us that feeling of that we're at 6, we're at 7, we're at 8. On the backside, which we're having a lot of challenges with right now, we're trying to have that same conversation with the Charlotte Water because they're a part of this, of getting to that 45 ultimately. Do they want to be a 500,000, $1 million, a 2 million? What level of a commitment are they going to want to make as part of that expansion as well? It's something they've had a lot of staff turnover over there. Our primary contact over there retired last year, and and probably our second that's contact left to go somewhere else. So we've had some challenges there getting steady communication, but working through that. And I know they're going to want to contribute at some point, but I just don't know how much and how willing they're going to be to commit. You know, that it may be tougher to get a number out of them. So
How ironclad is, maybe we did talk about it, I don't recall. From a political standpoint, I mean, is this rulemaking that's going on? Is this interpretation at the state level? Is it concrete law? Or, you know, how's it being implemented? Because it's a big jump. And I mean, is there a political angle to this that we have our legislative delegation?
All of our legislative delegation says, how can we help? How can we?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I mean, look, we get it. You just said a few minutes ago that, you know, in sometime in the next 5 to 8 years, we're probably going to be dealing with it. Let us deal with it in 5 to 8 years and let's get this 2 million gallons quickly out of the way.
Yep.
And then recognize the 45, we have no choice. It just seems, we've lobbied stuff before. It seems like we ought to at least give a shot to save $89 million or whatever.
So the state's point on this, or DEQ's point on this is that Bullet Falls Lake, which is south on the is south of Lake Tillery, has been listed. What was it listed for, Tom?
Chlorophyll.
Yeah, chlorophyll, maybe solids. I can't remember, but it was listed several years back. They're anticipating it could get delisted this year, but they're worried that they're not sure it's going to be walking that line. So they're taking the standpoint of, so the Yadkin River Basin itself is going through this process of nutrient limits for all dischargers in those basins. They're peeling off now, and they're saying in the Rocky River that anybody that expands a permit that discharges to the Yadkin, ultimately Bullet Falls, will have nutrient limits. So it's a basin-wide look on that. So, you know, obviously, there's always a political way to challenge things. It's always just, is it worth it? You know what I mean? That's always the challenge of is it worth it? We're happy to chase that, you know, and kind of try to fill that out
Just a
some.
thought.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
But
It's a good thought because this whole reducing the bedrooms and all that down, like this would be way more beneficial
Yeah.
from a capacity perspective and from a financial perspective than you know, that
Yeah.
discussion.
Well, the legislature just passed overwhelming. I can't remember the name of the law. Maybe William, you do, but they basically banned all new regulation. It goes to the legislature even for municipal staff, let alone state staff. And I know this is a little bit different, but there's certainly an appetite to say how much of this is precautionary.
Yep.
And how much of it is necessary.
Right.
And so if this 2 MGD is absolutely necessary, then we want to be good stewards of the environment.
Right.
If it's precautionary,
Right.
can we do that as part of this other upgrade that we're going to have to do? We're not going to do 36 and then call it a day here in Cabarrus County and run the sunset, right?
Right. So, that's certainly something we can reach out, try to get a feel of the appetite of what that would look like. William can be involved with that as well. Certainly something we can look at.
I agree. This is a juice worth the squeeze. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it could backfire on you and, you know, we got other things in the fire, but I do. It's just a big number for such a small amount of return, short term at least.
Yes.
Well, and I think to your point, Rob, this has been the plan for so long. It's not like this is something new. And so, you know, is there any validity that this was going to be the bridge? maybe you could tie it back to affordability in some way. I don't know. I mean, I think you could.
think you can.
I think you can tie it back to what a lot of the pieces of that are, so
Gosh, I mean,
bring
it's,
it home.
You're hearing this every day. You guys are certainly hearing it in Kannapolis. We get this pressure of,
Yeah.
housing costs. We need to build more volume, and watch your guys' meeting the other night, and Grant's on there saying, well, look, there's only supply and demand when it comes to housing, so you need more units. Well, how do we get units?
There's not just supply.
not regulation in
Cost.
Cabarrus County.
Right, right.
Not regulation.
Yeah,
That's,
that'd be
and I've told some
too-
legislators
It's
that
like, so
it's about this.
they can.
To us, it's about this. Affordability is tied to exactly what we're talking about here in this county.
Like, can you
The
make
quicker we
that?
get 2 million gallons out in the marketplace, the better. And if it's gonna cost us 126 million to get 2 million gallons out there, that's just not affordability for us or for the end user. Thought, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a political angle to be taken. We just have to decide as it.
And I also think you then tie it back to, because like if we're running it through our rate model, then it's the people that already live here that are paying it, because we don't have impact fees.
Yep.
So again, I think you can tie all of that back to discussions that are happening legislatively right now in the assembly. So I think that's a really good point, like.
We're struggling more now with this than we were the 36 for 45.
For sure.
Because we're looking at the per gallon value of this, and it's like, I get it, but you know,
Front loading that expense is tougher because you can't offset it
Yeah.
within.
somebody's got to pay for it now, not in 5 years. So anyway, I think let's keep that on the front burner. Maybe next meeting, talk a little more about it.
Right.
Maybe you and William can talk through it.
No, we'll definitely begin those conversations before the next meeting with,
Cool.
because there's discussion, that's the next item we'll talk about is, and I think Jennifer hinted at it a little bit there, that, I've been approached by, Jeff Corley and Lloyd, and I think in a conversation with Brian Echeverria and Jonathan Allman and, maybe someone else, I can't remember, on the topic of further flow factor reduction came up. That's something that Brian was wanting to find out more information on, and I think Lloyd let him know that would be great. That would help us and everything. And he's really grasped a hold of that. So we ended up getting, Jeff pulled me in and we got involved with that some. And I think it could have a benefit. There's no doubt. But it also could bring, it also has some challenges that it brings along with it. So what Lloyd asked me to do was to come to the board with some talking points that we had come together and just get a feel from the different jurisdictions of what that would be. So what we've looked at is we're currently at 75 gallons per day per bedroom. We're at 120, reduce that to 80. Then Senator Newton, Senate Bill 673, reduce that to 75 gallons per day per bedroom in 2003. I'm looking at probably a baseline that we could go to. Charlotte Water currently is at 65 gallons per day per bedroom and has been for a good while. I don't believe there's anyone else in the state lower than that. So I think that's probably would be a tough baseline to go below, would be 65. We know our data shows the real number is about 45. Okay, we know that. So a reduction from 75 to 65 would result currently today with an increase of 138,000 gallons for Cabarrus County, countywide. Okay, pretty small number, smaller than I anticipated. The reason primarily being is there's 2 million gallons of developer controlled capacity in Cabarrus County right now, but only just a little over 1 million of that's residential. About 1 million's commercial industrial, about 1 million's residential currently in Cabarrus County. So a reduction from 75 to 65 will be a 13% reduction, 13% increase. So for even our largest user, you say Concord's going to get about 75,000 gallons out of that. So that's not a game changer from that standpoint. Now, the flip side is you kind of get double credit for that, because it also means that 100 home subdivision that's 3 bedrooms doesn't take as much out of your pools, out of your buckets when you approve it, because it's 13% less capacity. So it means you get it on both sides. So those are all positives. that would assist with, we've talked about plenty of time. We have these two numbers that are existing out there in the world. One's real flow and the other is this developer controlled plus what's in the buckets of the jurisdictions plus flow. And there's quite a spread between those two. That would help somewhat close that spread. So those are all positives. The challenges that I see on it is the work that we underwent in 2021 with Willis Engineers to lower it from 120 to 80, took right at a year. Went back through a spreadsheet that our engineer put together. There was over 30 calls, meetings, email chains that went back and forth during that time. It was an extensive negotiation. And I stood in front of this board many times and said, I can't make this one up. This is what we've got back this time and what they're asking to do. It was a tough negotiation to get to 80. Then in 2003, working with Senator Newton and House Bill 673, we were pushing for 65. He came back and stated that 60 or 65 was not worth the political capital, that it was not worth it in his estimation and what he, in his talks with DEQ, that 75 was the best we could do. And that's where we ended up with at 75. So that was Senator Newton's estimation, his evaluation back in 23 with the then DEQ makeup. On top of that, I would say furthering lowering this flow factor will increase the ability for the flow to be out, the flow that each jurisdiction has to allocate, but it will reduce our 6-month square ups, obviously, and it will increase to a certain extent the risk of having a negative square up at the first of each year. If that's just that's just a challenge. That means our numbers are more closer to accurate. We've got less fluff in there. You have an increase in flow, you've got less room to make that up. But probably the most significant challenge I see is the same staff that would be involved with this that would have to be basically overridden on their decisions they've made in the past. So the same ones we're negotiating our permits with. It's that same staff level of people at DEQ, a lot of the same names. And that would be probably my biggest concern, that we could, again, with that political will overriding the viewpoints of staff, when did the staff start becoming more difficult for us to interact with and deal with? So I just wanted to, those are kind of the facts, the way I see it in it. I think what I pushed back was that I thought there would be more value in nutrient help on these nutrients, or help funding meeting these nutrient requirements. Because there's really two ways to look at that. One to say is, don't make us do the nutrients now, let us do it later. The other side is, we're only doing this nutrients because DEQ is requiring and putting new regulations on us. Can you help fund these requirements, the cost of these requirements on our existing customers? I feel like that is more worthwhile, either of those approaches, than looking at a flow factor reduction. But I wanted to get everybody's opinions from the jurisdictions.
That's about any of that.
To leave, but I agree 100%. And I will just let y'all know, Concord, the reason we brought this back is Brian was the one that started that conversation. It wasn't really a Concord conversation. We were just talking about sewer in general and doing our updates. And we were like, before you pursue that actually feels like the board decided, Concord boards decided, this feels more like a WSACC decision, not a Concord decision, because we don't want to be going out there on our own. We're all working on all this other stuff. And so just for point of clarity, that's kind of how we got here to say, we think it belongs here, not in Concord. So, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, when we went over this 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever we got the initial 75 or down to 80, sorry. What was DEQ staff's major pushback? Was it similar to your analysis here, it's better safe than sorry and you get it back anyway?
Yeah, well, so DEQ makes the argument, and that I firmly disagree with, that you have to factor in the inflow and infiltration impacts that new connection will make in year one. And my argument always is, well, in year one, this new connection, this new subdivision should have the most minimal inflow and infiltration impact of anything in your system. After day 364, at the worst case, it's now in your previous year flow. So if you're not taking care of I&I, you're punishing yourself on that after year one. And their argument is, well, down the road, it's going to leak. Well, yeah, it'll be in our actual flow number. It won't be in that. So that's always been the sticking point, that the regulations currently require you to look at the wettest month of the year, the wettest 3 days of the wettest month of the year, and calculate your per residential bedroom off of that, and adjust for any excess of I&I, which they don't describe what excess of I&I is. And they're always stuck on that inflow and infiltration. And our argument always back is that should have been TV'd. It should have been, inspected. It should have very minimal I&I under year one. Year two, year three, yes, it's going to go up over time to a point you have to address it. Keep your flows in check. And
Our study proved that out, though. I mean, we went out and looked at this in our newer areas.
it did.
South part of Harrisburg had the least. And
It did.
and,
It did.
you know,
It proved it out. The data does not leave any room for interpretation there. They just stick on the fact that it's going to have a lot of I&I one day, and we can't look past that. And my argument is, it doesn't matter after year one. After year one, it's out of that calculation. It's in this calculation.
And we know it.
And the primary staff member that's the holdup there is a retired South Carolina DHEC person that's now working on his second retirement and has a 45-year career and has no interest in changing his mind. And
So, I mean, on all of these things, I mean, Chad, you know me pretty well on this. Like, I'm an all of the above
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I don't mind hurting DEQ's feelings, but
Right.
also I understand, you guys have to submit applications to them. Of course, I don't want to put you in that spot. So, understand that as well. The juice doesn't seem worth the squeeze in this regard. But I do think there are other organizations out there that come beat on our door. People I had to meet with today, who are like, "What do you mean we don't have capacity? What can we do?" Well, go get it, buddy. Arbic, the rest of these folks that are constantly trying to get land use changes, go get this flow factor reduction. But don't put it on us to take that political liability, like you said. Now, if it could go lower than this, maybe that is more worthwhile. Like you said, Charlotte's at 65, that you might be asking for a heck of a lot to get down to
I think unless you were to bring, I think probably the best way that would ever get really handled is the right retirements, right staff changes that you could look at. But then also, if you brought together a group of enough individuals and enough data and went to them, that you got enough mass of people involved, that you might could get some benefit there. But you start at the lower you get, the less benefits you get from it. When we went from 120 to 180, it was like 500,000 or 600,000 gallons. It was a big chunk of capacity. But as you get down, it's not as valuable. Still beneficial,
But I mean, I certainly like the approach of having a state level appropriation ask for the 89 million in what I would call an unfunded mandate.
Yep.
From there, and then they can make that. So you guys can figure out whether or not that's important to you, or whether or not you take 90 million out of the state treasury and supplant that. Honestly, I think we should probably ask for quite a bit more. But at a minimum, it's like, look, you caused that.
Right.
That's not an us thing.
Yeah.
And put that puts them in a bit more of a dilemma than the 75 to 65.
Yep.
If it's one or the other.
Okay.
Well, Mike, did you get your answer, whether it was rulemaking or law, or which is it?
So, yeah,
It's not law.
Sounds more-
It's not law. It's
more interpretation or
It is.
administration of the law.
It is
On the nutrient.
On the
on the
nutrient,
nutrients. Yes.
when and how it gets implemented, but So that seems like an easy win, but there's a downside. I get it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think posing it to our delegation is help us find $89 million or some amount of that. Just squeeze some bureaucrats
Make
to
some calls.
I mean, I think,
People call you all the time.
slow things down a little bit.
It'll make it go away for a little bit.
I think the biggest win would be getting it funded, because we're gonna have to do it one day.
I mean, we could even enter
You
into.
get it funded would be the biggest win.
Sure. You
Get
gotta do it at some point.
correct.
The other option, maybe a middle ground, is to reach some sort of contractual arrangement with the state that we will do it, but we don't need to do it in the next 24 months.
I go to 45.
Yeah, when we do
Yeah.
45, we'll do it, or maybe if we don't do 45, we have a sunset that we have to do it by some
Yep.
predetermined date.
Yep.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you guys work?
We
on
we would,
this?
yeah, we definitely continue to work on
And
alternate ways to look at it.
other-
Other thing I had, we will, like I said earlier, we'll be bringing the budget, next month to the board. We're pretty good, pretty wrapped up on that, in pretty good shape. So, it looks good. One thing I did want to also mention to the board, we've noticed, I think we're in month 3 now, consecutive months of being very low on system development fee collection. Some of our lowest months we've seen in years, of system development fee collections, which is, you know, I mean, I know we're in the winter time, but looking even at past winters, the numbers are just dramatically lower than they've been. And so that's kind of surprising to us. We budget pretty low on system development fees. You know, I don't anticipate not meeting our budget on system development fees, but I think it's, you know, definitely seeing a slowdown in the number of connections right now over the last quarter. That could turn right around, obviously, but yeah.
Hey, any other updates?
No, that's
Or
it.
any other topics?
Nope.
Okay,
I got questions for you on the budget stuff next month.
Yes.
When are we looking at adoption?
It'll be in April. So typically it's presented to the board in March, and the board has a month to review questions. If the board wants to have a work session, wants to schedule a work session, then
Schedule one now? I'm gonna want a work session. I haven't seen the budget, but
it would
the past 4 years, you know, I've thought
Right.
about.
we need a vote to approve a work session, because we don't have a,
You know, like a separate date?
I'd like a budget presentation. I've never seen like, other than here's the budget, which was absent CIP last year. Mike was always kind of coming, we just, here's a budget, looks good. Everybody blesses it and we move on. Last year, you kind of, you know, came in about halfway through that process, so we adopted it in the spring, but
typically we present the budget with the budget message, go through highlights of what's in the budget, what's looking through, then the board's asked, do we want to have a work session?
Yeah, so it'd be, I think the proper time would be at March when we see it. If y'all think we need to do a work session before the April adoption, we could schedule it at the March meeting.
let me follow up with, are we gonna get budget detail?
Yeah, it's always presented.
I'm talking about the details, so like split out by department. like-
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
like you and okay, I don't have that from last year, but you have so like supplies and services
Oh, yeah.
and travel and training and.
Oh, yeah.
and all that, so
That broke
the
out.
budget and then a project justification form for capital projects.
Yeah, so we have a project sheet for each capital
We've
project.
always gotten
And
that.
then.
Yeah, we've always got
And
that.
then I'm just trying to make sure I get these three, and then org chart and personnel justification form. If I have those 3 for a month, I might not need
Right.
a budget
I
workshop.
don't know that we've gotten that,
We've never done that.
but I've never, nobody's ever asked for that, but
Well, it's, and
that seems to be an internal thing for the management team.
if we're asking for staffing, we'd have to approve it.
Well, I mean, yeah, if they're staffing in the budget, I'm sure there's a reason in the budget.
There's no new staffing.
Won't know that till March is what William just said, so. If we get there and that's the case, but you know, the more documentation we can have and have it out, not just for the board members, we are a public body. And so this should be available for the public. And, you know, if there's no issues with it, it can be approved 1 month later.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the reason this is always fast tracked is get ahead of the municipal budgets. And give us enough time to know what the final numbers are so we can craft our budgets. So we always have this task of having to do that pretty quickly. But to your point, I mean, we can have as many work sessions as we need.
Definitely.
Well, I think it's a good idea to have it done before ours, as you had mentioned, so maybe it's a start it sooner thing. Or maybe it's, we get this packet out and it's pretty simple. You know, Chad and I have had this conversation in the past of just WSAC's operation is more complex than it ever has been. He's gotten the lucky task of taking over the organization when we have sewer allocation issues and everything else. You know, we've never had that before, and fortunate enough not to have that. But all of these issues are important ones to make sure that we're all on the same board with before we go ahead and approve a budget.
No disagreement here. Other board thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, we will open the floor for public comments. Does anybody here in the audience like to speak? I do not see anybody but staff. Pretty clean and quick. We will close the public comment period. Think since we don't have a quorum, no need to go into session.
Correct. We'll just punt that until March.
Right. No other business for this board. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion to second, any discussion? I don't even know if we can do that, but we're gonna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.